Real quick before we get this episode started, we're on YouTube and on Spotify, depending on which one you listen on. Hopefully, you guys can click subscribe, leave a like on the video, and hopefully, enjoy this episode to where you'll want to enjoy more episodes. Well, we're happy to have you and enjoy the podcast. Bro, it's been so long, but we're here.
Dude, it really has.
God have
Jesus.
mercy. Welcome back to the one and only. I
Missing
fucking
triggers.
said it. Missing Triggers podcast. We're back after 4 or 5 week hiatus. We've been going through some stuff. We've been living. Flesh and blood and content really wasn't our priority for the last month or so, and so. It feels nice to get back. We're at episode 8. Pro Tour Lille Preshow is what we're going to call this episode. We're going to go through, the last few weeks of Flesh and Blood and go over Singapore, go over the Worlds format, and then we're going to go over Pro Tour Lille. Brief thoughts on everything and some hard-hitting topics that a lot of people, have their opinions on, but before anything else, get good at Blitz. There we are. How have you been, Sebastian? What have you been up to? Talk to us about your last few weeks.
I think it kind of goes for both of us. Where have we been? Basically, me and Kyle aren't able to go to France, so that kind of killed the competitive drive for me this month. Not having an event to kind of grind towards and not having anything locally other than skirmishes, which I did fairly well. Kyle did fairly. We did well for our skirmish season, but other than just casually playing some blitz and just taking it easy, not really testing CC, haven't been really doing much. Just like you said, living life, and I think the main reason, if you agree with me, Kyle, is just because we aren't able to go to France. If I was able to go to France, I'd be on the grind like the rest of the guys, testing every day, just trying to figure out the limited format and all that and having a bunch of fun with it. But since I didn't, I'm just going to stay salty and just be like, I wouldn't have done well anyway because I didn't practice. So now I'm happy with that excuse.
Yeah, honestly, same. It was a weird, nice change of pace, I guess you could say, to not really have to worry about anything for a little while. You and I did decide to.
Did we get a break? Did we get a break?
I think we took a break ourselves.
We took a break.
Blitz format, skirmish season, was something to say the least. We really didn't take it too competitively, but at the same time, when they announced like the world's qualifications and stuff, you and I were like, "Oh, you're like at 46th or something, so we might need to go to these just so you can not have to use your PTI for worlds," And that was, I think, probably the biggest thing that happened in the past month and a half is just trying to get some points. So you didn't have to worry about that.
Lifetime points, right?
Yeah, because you're top 50 currently world all time for XP, and Josh is like right there too. You guys are like 40 and 41, or in that area. So, obviously, after your weekend that you had, Jesus, you ended up winning 2 ProQuest, or whoa, I read the word ProQuest on my screen here. No, you won 2 skirmishes in a weekend, and the week before, you got second, and I somehow bested you of that one, and I won a skirmish, which hadn't been like that in a year. So,
dude, that was the classic Kyle on Dory, Sebastian on Chain skirmish final at Showcase.
That's like our 3rd one I think we've done at Showcase, but
yeah,
it was nice to get to actually make top 8 of that particular skirmish, getting in at like 7th seed, and kind of just taking it down, getting a little bit lucky, and it felt nice, to win something for once, since it's even if it is pretty small. It felt nice to get to play Dorinthia again, and shout out to Josh for such a well. Actually, I won with his outdated list, which is funny, and then with his not outdated list, like his current list, I got destroyed. So maybe I should just go back to the old list, playing one glistening steelblade. But
Exactly.
shout out to Josh, right? But yeah, skirmish season for the most part was fun. Actually, an old childhood friend of mine hit me up right as skirmish, or I was told that a childhood friend of mine, shout out to Caleb, he'll never hear this more than likely, but found out that he was playing Flesh and Blood. So I've got his number. I haven't talked to him in like 12, 13, 14 years, and I was like, hey, I heard you playing Flesh and Blood. Let's get together. Let's play. Let me teach you a few things. And that was really cool. And you actually got to meet him too. When we come down to my hometown for that one skirmish, we stopped by his place, and you got to meet him and everything. And that was pretty awesome to get to catch up with him. And we have mutual interests again, which is really cool. So overall, this last month, it's been more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been more of a decompressing, time. Get to just enjoy casual Flesh and Blood for the most part, and
just taking it easy, having fun.
Yeah, it's all we can ask for a lot of times, right? Like with all this competitive stuff that we get into, and continuously grind. I mean, that's what we did, right? Like we would play nonstop every single day, and to not have to worry about that, and then just to go on the weekend, get to see a few friends, get to play some casual blitz, fun stuff, and maybe win a little bit of prizes. It was fun. It was a great time off of content, and just to lay low and just chill out.
Definitely.
Shout out to 4 Bounding Demigod hands.
Yeah.
It's my favorite
I
picture.
can't believe I won that game.
You honestly shouldn't have won that game, but you did because you have Carrion Husk in your deck. But that's neither here nor there. It is. But other than that, you got second at 1, and you won 2 in that weekend at Meeple and then Prime Time. You went like 13 or 14-0 with Chain. So
basically, the Blitz season was top 4, lost Icelander, finals, beat Icelander in top 4 that time, and then won top 4. So overall, I think my Blitz record was like it's somewhere like 20 something and 5 or 4 like that.
I want to say it was like 27-5 is what you said your final record was after skirmish season or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, something crazy like that. So
that wasn't including level up either, if I'm not mistaken. That was when we were on our way back from Macon. So
yeah,
who knows? You had a really good record though.
Yeah, and that when we get into the whole worlds discussion, we can talk about variance, quotation variance.
Love variance. My favorite word. All right, before we get into the Calling Singapore, I do want to say this is being recorded on the 25th of August, and I got word that the Emperor might be Draconic Runeblade. That's all I'm going to say on that topic, because I'm excited. The dude looks badass, and I love me some Runeblade and Draconic stuff. So I think I think it might be neat.
Just because it's another Runeblade, don't quit the game. Just get good and beat them. Don't get mad.
I agree. Yeah, don't get mad. Fuck that. Let's get into the Calling Singapore. Actually, first off, I want to congratulate Jason Zhang for winning with Talishar Dash out of all things. That took the whole Flesh and Blood community by surprise. Don't you think?
Don't you mean Wombat Dash?
Is that what we're calling it?
No, like actually that is apparently like Turtle Katsu. Apparently somehow it got made into Wombat Dash. And like DM Armada was just inflated.
Jesus.
They were just saying it the whole stream. It was hilarious.
That's actually pretty funny. Actually, Jason was my first round opponent at Pro Tour New Jersey. Believe it or not.
And he beat the goddamn brakes off you.
He beat the piss out of me. I've never seen somebody open up as well as he did, but I mean, he played it very well. I was in Starvo because I had little testing, and he goes amplifier, turn 0, spark a genius amplifier, sets another amplifier, and then and then out of 3 turns he blocks a lot with his all his defense reactions, and then gets 2 induction chambers and starts killing me, and it was impossible to do anything to. So um I'm glad to see him
Hey, I'd love to
reinvent the
see
wheel with Dash.
I'd love to see one tricks do well. All right. I actually do, and I'm not even joking. I love it to see when someone is committed to a hero and then they do well with it, and then eventually LSS is gonna, shaft you and take away that hero, and then you can't play the game anymore. And you're me. Anyway, top 8.
Yeah,
Top 8 calling Singapore.
top 8. We had a Phi and Icelander, Wombat Dash, of course, and then
Yeah.
Viscerai and 4 Briar. Um, it's funny because that's really
Everyone was
not
surprised about,
surprising.
yeah.
That's not surprising to us because I mean, 2 of the people that top aided that tournament, that Galling, were like test partners, right? Like you had
Yeah.
Alan Lau and Shing,
They've been
and
going crazy with the other guys. Obviously, I haven't played with them at all this season because I haven't been preparing for a calling or a pro
yep,
tour or anything. But they've been going crazy with those guys. Um,
they
Alan's
stay
been
up until
working.
like 7, 8 in the morning in Hong
Yeah,
Kong,
their
like
time.
in Hong
Yep.
Kong time,
They
and
do it so they can stay up during our time
yep.
because like 1 p.m. for us on Eastern time is 1 a.m. for them. So they'll stay up till around 5 to 7 a.m. for their time, which is 5 to 7 p.m. and wait for the guys to get off work and stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Or if you're Nathan and Alex, you have a flexible schedule where you can just play with them whenever. And so,
Exactly.
I do remember a lot of times, like if anybody didn't know, I work with Nam as well, and I look over there and Nam's got the matches up on Discord while we're working, and we'll be watching the matches and kind of seeing what they're doing and what they're testing and hear what their thoughts are. And those guys are very dedicated. And shout outs to Alex and Nathan for testing with them a lot, and Josh too, because you know I think they make us better players and vice versa. And I think obviously you saw that with how well the Hong Kong crew showed up in Singapore, and I think 3 Hong Kong players top 8 with Briar. So,
They
um,
did.
so
But
that's pretty awesome.
a lot of people were surprised about the Briars being in top 8, but it was funny because Nathan kind of came into the chat about 2 weeks ago and just said Briar is better than Viscerai. Like, and he's just when Nathan doubles down on something, he fucking means it, and
Yeah,
that's just it. He's
yeah.
like basically, and me and Kyle talked about it. We're like hard agree because Briar can block 2 cards and then attack with 2 cards. Viscerai can't do that. Viscerai just can't function off a 2 card hand the way Briar can. I mean, with some Briar hands, you can block 8 damage on your opponent's turn and then come in with 8 damage, getting 16 value out of your hand, making another embodiment, blocking more, and that's just crazy.
I
Or
think
you can set
I
up
think
an arsenal.
I think you actually mentioned this, and I was kind of on the same wavelength as far as the way the format's like warped and shaped here. Briar, like you said, Briar definitely is better with the 2 card hands. But Viscerai needs 3 card hands to do stuff, right? You need the card to pitch, and then you need the non-attack and the attack. So you can Kadachi, or whoa, red Kadachi on here. So you can Rosetta afterwards and apply pressure, and so I think that's one of the reasons why Viscerai um, has kind of fallen a little bit to the wayside as far as the Rune Blades go. Like it's obviously still very very good. Like you can still get really good matchups and still just spike your way through a tournament. Um, but I
Plus,
think right now, go ahead.
I think both of the decks have a very nice like burst mechanic. While Briar needs a little bit more setup with the channel Mount Heroic and keeping that on, Viscerai can just kind of have 2 or 3 turns a game where they just see like Mordred Tide Revel. And that's insane. So
Yeah, that is
it,
true.
yeah, no, I mean both those cards on their own are just incredibly powerful, but if you can line them up together, it just kind of gets out of hand.
For sure. Um, there was an Icelander that actually did very well, and actually at the same weekend, Icelander ended up winning the CC Battle Hardened in Singapore too. What are your thoughts on Icelander right now? Because I know I'm pretty sure you thought this was the sleeper, right?
Yeah, I still do. I still think it's a sleeper. I think the reason I haven't been practicing Icelanders is the same reason we haven't been really practicing Dromai. It's just one of those decks that can do very well into the meta, very well into the aggro decks. I feel like it has a playstyle into the Guardians, but its Prism matchup is absolutely awful. Like, I think it's just better to concede and not get frustrated and just keep a good mind for the next round. And a lot of people don't agree with that mentality, but I'm on that wavelength where it's like if you're playing Icelander, just concede and have a get some lunch.
I
What
will
if you're at the
never
pro tour?
forget. I will never forget when we were at the first RTN, the CCRTN, and you were on ice. You decided to play Icelander. Round three, you sit down. It was me and you beside each other, and you sat down, and the guy's like, "I'm playing Prism," and you looked at him and said, "I concede.
I'm
I'm
out.
gonna go get something to drink." I
I
laughed
mean,
about that for like 20 minutes in my match. It was so funny.
dude, it was the strategy because like I'm not gonna give him a game to figure out what the hell I'm doing. I'm just gonna if I see him again in top eight, I can kind of navigate it from there, right? If I see him in
Sure.
top cut. But I think Icelander is a great deck. I think people are sleeping on it, and I think it needs a good pilot and a good build. And that's just the hard part about it is that it's one of those decks that you have to be like playing at 100% the whole time, and your good matchups are hard matches, right? It's like even when you play against Phi, and a Frostbite can shut down their whole turn. Sometimes they have two blues in their hand and they don't care. And you don't know this until they start pitching, right? And then if you see a red card, you're like, okay, well, one frostbite's going to shut them down here. But if it's one of those turns where you don't have, if you can only make one frostbite and they have two blues in their hand, they're just getting insane damage in. That's when you have to be on blocking mode. And there's a lot of lines and a lot of ways you have to navigate all your good matchups. And for me, I don't know if I will be full committing to Icelander just because like in a 7 round classic constructed tournament or like even on the local level where it's like 5 rounds plus 3 rounds of top cut or 6 rounds and 3 rounds of top cut, being that aware and relevant, maybe at a local it's easier, but like at a calling, you're while you're playing at the highest level of play and you just have to be on point every single game versus a deck like Viserai or Briar or Phi, where some matchups you literally just see, all right, what's the best way I can optimize my hand here, or you just stick to your basic game plan, and it's really easy. But Icelander is just something different where you have to be on your P's and Q's every single game. You have to, it's a mountain to
Yeah,
climb
for
for your
sure.
good matches and your bad matches.
For sure. That is a very good explanation for that. It definitely is what we view as a mountain. Way more way more struggle, but way more rewarding if you do well with it, right? Like etching out like if you're I remember you were playing against a Bravo or a Oldham player at that RTN, and you set up the Ice Eternal triple Frostex play, and the guy just couldn't do anything, and like it was down to you being at like 2 life, and you finally set it up, and like I felt good because I was like, oh, he did it. Like that is so sick, and like that's rewarding to me if you find a way to get there
The
in
last
regards to that.
the last round I played there, I played like 4 Oldhams that day. The last Oldham I played, it was actually a super fun and close game, and we were both out for top eight at that point, so we were just playing to play. But he went up to almost, I think it was 49 or 50 life, and got me down to below 20, and somehow I clawed my way back and then set up my big turn, but did the math wrong and was like 3 damage off or 1 to 3 damage off, and he stayed around, and I didn't keep a card for my arsenal because I went all in, not thinking about Crown of Seeds getting him a blue. I just forgot math right there for a second
Mm.
there. But I was like, I can't believe I thought you had that game. And somehow, we claw back from it. So yeah, it's definitely a deck that's fun and rewarding. It's just it's a mountain. It's so hard to play.
Yep. Yep, you are not wrong. Let's get into this Phi Deck. Obviously, as we know, um, they neutered Phi a little bit, and it had showing still at the Calling Singapore. I have the list pulled up here so we can kind of talk about it and kind of go over it. Obviously, the deck previously was just a mainline go again red cards with Art of Wars, Toma Firebrands if you wanted to play it, and Belittles and just go in, right? Like that was the deck. And you could spew out like 50 damage turns, 60 damage turns if you did it right. And this deck was a little bit different. It's actually something that I thought about when we were building, or when Phi was announced, with Kadachi's and 9, even bigger than that. You're just trying to dig as much as you can just to be able to play more cards. And looking at it here, he's literally playing so many on-hit cards, like Mounting Anger, Engulfing Flame Wave. He's playing Ancestral Empowerments. He's playing Snatches, Take the Tempos, and he's playing actually blue Snatches as well. So he's got a lot of just blues, a lot of good blues in here as far
Let
as.
me tell you, Blue Snatch off even bigger than that. That's the tech right there, bro.
I mean,
That's the tech right there, bro.
it still hits for 2, and you have go again. Like it's such an awkward number,
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
forced to block it because you're just going again anyway. So like that seems powerful. Like I almost would want to even play yellow Snatches, right? Like and just get there, but like it just seems this deck just seems like it.
I think Engulfing Flame Wave in general is just one card that's the one that banishes the top, and then if it's less than the combat chain, you get to play it for free, right?
The effects state it costs 2 for
Mhm.
5, and it says when it hits, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an attack action card with cost less than the chain links, banish it, and you can play it this turn. So you still have to pay
Yeah.
for it, but obviously, like
If your whole deck's like 0.
if
If a
most of your deck
majority
is
is
zeros,
0,
like
yeah.
you're sitting there with Snatch, and you're like, okay, I'll reveal a Snatch, haha, like.
Exactly.
And if they block this at all, like if they just like throw a card just to not take damage, you can still on the next attack even bigger than that. In like, let's just say it's red, you could like stack your deck, see the Snatch, and then just now you have the 4 go again into like another thing. So it's just all this deck is all about chain links and just optimizing draws and just getting there. It's only playing 1 Phoenix Flame, which is I think is all you need. And then also he's playing Razor Reflexes. So shout out to OG. This guy's an OG for that one.
Dude, I might play that deck just for Razor Reflex. I love that card.
I like legitimately have been thinking about playing this deck because it just seems it seems neat and it seems right up my alley. It seems
Yeah.
like a different type of Katsu deck, and we all know how much I love Katsu. So I
Yeah,
might have
but
to sleeve this up.
what I was saying is I think people are very low on that card. Like they don't think it's that good, but I feel like in limited, people have been like, "Yeah, man, I'll take 5." And then every time I think I played that card maybe like 6 times limited. I think 5 times it's hit like 3 damage or 4 damage that's been relevant, and they're like, "Wasn't expecting that. Should have blocked that." I'm like, "This card seems like it would be pretty good in Classic Constructed because this is definitely not a card that you would like want to block." You're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah," but essentially it is Snatch. It's saying draw a card.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's playing 18 blues in the deck, so like it makes sense to play more cards that cost you. Like he's playing 3 CNC and he's playing 3 Engulfing Flame Wave. The only thing I probably would change is try to fit in Double Strike somewhere in there just for the more chain links. Because you're not necessarily caring a lot about the Draconic as much. So I don't know. I'm definitely gonna sleeve this up and try it out. I think Mr. Ivan Tio is onto something here with this deck, and shout outs to you for killing against Singapore with this deck. I'm thoroughly impressed with this deck. So yeah, love me some Phi, love me
Yeah.
some ninja class. So
Well, it looks like we got Worlds on the horizon.
dude, man, I'm like half excited, and then the other half I'm excited.
I know,
Um,
right?
Cause like it's in San Jose if anybody didn't know, like in November sometime, right? Um,
That is my least favorite
and
part about it, but
that's
I'm so
that.
happy.
I'm ecstatic. I say we go a couple days early and go see Alcatraz and make a trip out of it. It'd be so much fun. Um, Obviously, I think it was the second week of RTN season. They announced where and the dates it was going to be, or at least the dates, right? No, both. And recently they came out with the format that we're going to be playing, and
A
you know
lot of people have been talking about
this
this.
is this has been the topic of discussion for like a month, or well,
A
close to a
couple
month
weeks
since. Yeah,
since
since
it came out.
since
Yeah,
since this announcement, it's been like um
I've
so
made
at
two posts
Worlds.
about it.
You
I
might have. We might have been in the car and you're like, let's stir up a little bit of bullshit here real quick. um so obviously we thought it was going to be just like Nationals last year. It's going to be 3cc, or excuse me, 3 draft 5cc, and then 3 draft 5cc. CC being classic constructor for anybody who doesn't know what Flesh and Blood is or the competitive side of it. So we have 3 draft, uprising draft, and then we have 5 classic constructed for day 1, which will be on Friday. Saturday, it's going to be 3 draft again, like we figured. But this time it's going to be blitz format for the last 5 rounds of the World Championship to get into top 8. Yeah.
I
Here
mean,
we are.
here we are. People are. I think the discussion that needs to be had is people don't want to play Blitz because they're like, it's a casual format, it's not good, it's all high roll, blah blah blah. And there was someone who made a comment back to me that was so well thought out, and I was like, man, that is the perfect way to summarize it, right? And then even on our own team, this happened where it was like people. Believe the comment. I don't know the exact wording, but the gist of the comment was people say I got high rolled in blitz, or this deck killed me, but they're not asking themselves, right? Why am I not playing more blues against Kano? Why am why am I not playing more defense reactions if Dory's blowing me out? Why am I not playing a better late game, like some kind of, you know, if Oldham is fatiguing you out, then you need to be playing some kind of card to prevent that. Like if you're playing Briar and Oldham's fatiguing you out, play So tomorrow, right? To recycle the channel mounts. Um, People in Blitz don't ask themselves that question enough, and even Alex, our teammates, like, man, every time I see Wizard, I just lose. And Josh is like, well, have you thought about changing your deck up? And he's like,
That
I'm
was I
playing
was gonna
Kasai.
say. I was
He's
literally gonna say that.
He's like, I'm playing Kasai. You
Yeah.
can't. And then Josh literally said to him, then don't play
Adapt.
Kasai.
He said
Adapt.
adapt. He
Yeah,
said
adapt.
adapt.
You
That
have
is
to adapt.
that is going to be my focal point. I'm going to concentrate on when we're gonna go through Blitz is adapt. Since we have access to Josh Lau and the entire Hong Kong, like a lot of the competitive players from Hong Kong, they're very known for their blitz. And I believe, are going to get great blitz testing because of that. We're going to have to learn, how to adapt. Granted, at the same time, like, you and I kind of understand the format a little better than a lot of other people, but we're just going to have to, like, learn more. I'm excited for that because, blitz is how we learn the game, right? Like, that was the format that just got announced, a couple months before we even got into the game. So,
Exactly. And I think, especially with the deck I play, it answers a lot of the problems that Blitz has. Like I play Chain in Blitz because a lot of the problems in Blitz is like I don't have enough armor to stop what my opponent's doing and be proactive on my game plan, or I do have armor. Let's say you're playing a deck with a fridge, so Chain and that deck are on even, but then the difference is Chain can block a card or two and then mill, a blood debt and then still have a crazy turn
Yep.
when
It's
your
very
deck
true.
can't. And I'm saying that kind of finding decks that solve that niche, like in one way or the other, where it's like you play a deck that you know is going to solve Blitz's answers, and like for example, hard aggro, then you play Oldhim, but you just have to make sure your Oldhim deck doesn't lose to Kano pitch stacking correctly, right? And
Mhm.
that's just kind of the thing. Like going into this world's format, let's just say Icelander's still the best blitz deck, like it is right now. You can't play a deck that just folds to Icelander. And if I find in my testing that Chain folds to Icelander 70% or more of the time, I'm not going to bring Chain to Worlds. That's just how it is.
Yep. I agree. I agree completely. Um, I mean, honestly, you just hit the nail on the head with that one. So,
But
um,
overall, besides Blitz, super excited for Worlds. I'm literally stoked. It's gonna be, I think, one of the best weekends, like Pro Tour one for us, like one of the best weekends of our life. I've never got to play in a Worlds or anything for any card game because I'm fairly new to competitive card games, so it's gonna be a landmark moment for me. What about you, Kyle?
yeah, honestly, just with the past stuff and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and everything, I'm Yu-Gi-Oh is really hard to get into the World Championships. And Pokemon is a little easier, but I didn't play for long enough to really achieve the status of getting the points to go to Worlds. But um, obviously, I'm not playing in this one either. But hopefully, being there and getting to experience the atmosphere, more than likely playing the calling
What? No, no,
and
man, don't count yourself out. You're getting your PTI.
shut the fuck up. um, so you know seeing the two people, and I know I say this a lot when it's like without the camera or without doing the podcast. I know, I know I say this a lot, but getting to see it. Our first goal ever when we got into this game was to say we played in the first Pro Tour, and all three of us did it. Me, you, and Alex. All three of us fucking did it, and that was one of the coolest things ever to see that like three of us started playing this game, achieved it. Coolest thing ever. Um, Being able to see you guys play in the World Championships and be able to hopefully document it for everyone to see is going to be the highlight for me. Because I
No,
know you guys are gonna put in the work. So
I'm calling it right now. Either you or me are top aiding nationals to get you that invite.
you're
I'm
wild.
calling it right now.
But long story short, being able to play in a world championship is one thing, right? Being able to, you know, play in the game's first ever world championship is something special too, because like nobody can take that away from you. Like you are one of probably a couple hundred that are going to be able to play in that, right? And I legitimately don't think anything beats that in any sort of like world championship esque type feel. So
Absolutely not.
I'm
Yeah.
excited just to be there and just get to experience it, get to go to the banquet, record it all, and just record the weekend, interview all of you guys, and we have a good time. Because like that's just the atmosphere and getting to be with the entire team and getting to see old people or people that we haven't seen in forever, especially with not going to Vegas, and then especially with not going to Pro Tour France.
I was literally about to say the same thing, that since I miss Vegas, I miss France. I feel like I haven't been able to grind for anything super important. Road to Nationals, of course, but like even those, it was just like get top four. Like we weren't trying hard at them, right?
Yeah.
Now to have an event where we can really, with the back-to-back Nationals and Worlds, and I'm just so excited, and I'm ready to get back on the grind. We've had our break, and I think me and you both said that once this ban list comes out after the Pro Tour, it's literally go time.
August 30th is when we decide on what we're going to focus on and go from there. I'm excited to possibly get to learn this Flesh and Blood Online client. It might be better for player experience, and that might give us the edge too. Being able to do that, also being able to queue up against other people to test things might be pretty cool too. So
They should do a leaderboard. That should be the next thing they work on. Is a
that
leaderboard.
I planned on sending them an email after Pro Tour, talking with Josh, because I know Josh found the website first before any of us did, and I think it'd be a cool thing to be able to work with them to possibly help with updates and possible developments in the website and making it something that a lot of people go towards. And maybe, if it's kind of like, Dual Network or Dueling Book, as it's called now for Yu-Gi-Oh, where you get like some sort of ELO rating, like it's like a pseudo ELO rating type thing where you get XP for wins and you lose XP for losses and all the other stuff. And, you can kind of see like it with seasons, right? Like for a month, you can see who wins, like who's the top players and stuff, and then that could be more storylines, and that could create more content for a lot of people, which you and I talked about last night too. So I think the sky's the limit with Flesh and Blood Online, and I think they're on the right track with something really neat. So
For sure, for sure.
talk to me about a word. Okay, I need explanation of a word. It's called variance. Can you
Yes.
can you explain that to me at all in any way, shape, or form? I heard that's like your favorite word.
I mean, basically, it just goes into what we talked about with the Blitz stuff. It's like I feel like people use variance as an excuse to
Oh, an excuse.
justify,
Okay.
yeah, to justify either their deck choice, how they, the deck that they chose to play the hero, how they built the deck, or their play with the deck and their role into a matchup. And sure, in Blitz, you're gonna have those one out of what, like Josh said, out of 500 games with Reinar, he's been OTK'd on turn one 3 times, less than 5 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's through his whole Blitz career. And personally,
That's
I had an
a lot.
experience where turn zero, Reiner goes Arsenal pass. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm playing chain. I do my chain things, attack you for 6 damage, Arsenal plunder run, like classic chain things. And
Mm-hmm.
on their turn, they just go Blood Rush, Bellow, Mandible Claw,
Get
Alpha
fucked.
Rampage,
That happened
and
at the Battle Harden in New Jersey, actually.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously presenting, I believe that's over 20 damage on turn one. I was still able to play out of it and win that game very tightly, but they pitched a reckless swing, and I was like, okay, so unless you draw a second reckless swing in this moment, I'm just gonna go down to 2 and win the game. And they're like, yeah, that was my last reckless swing. I'm like, yep,
Duma, get fucked.
Uma, yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Jesus.
I I just think that people who have wrote off Blitz as a bad format should really give it a try. I will say there are some absolutely awful matchups in Blitz. Like, for example, chain mirror matches. It's literally who goes first or second. And this is funny because one of the locals in our area, Andrew, he last weekend when I had my undefeated run, or I guess 2 weeks ago, I had my undefeated run in Swiss. I won the die roll. I beat him because I went first. In top eight, because I was top seed, I won the die roll. Or this was top four. I won the die roll because I was top seed, and I beat him because I went first. And then this weekend, the one where he won the skirmish, round one, he beats me because he won the die roll. I go 4-1. He was my only loss. Win my top eight match. Top four, I play him.
Almost. First off, your top 8 match was crazy.
Yeah, I had to play through Ice Lexi. and it was
Should have won that game, and somehow you won that game.
shouldn't have won that game, but we got there. And he was top seed, so he went first and beat me. I just thought, I'm like, this is hilarious that both of us literally had the exact same thing happen because it's just who goes first.
Literally just who goes first, and and if you see the Art of War, it's just even better, right? So
But because he knows where his deck was a little bit different than mine, that made it better in that situation is he was playing Blue Sift in his deck. And turn one against me, he used it to arsenal like a red plunder run or like a belittle or Art of War. It was something crazy like that. And then in his finals match, he also used it on turn one to arsenal a plunder run. I was like, see what I mean? Where it's like you can change your deck building to beat that situation.
mm-hmm. Hmm.
Or like in old times when Chain used to have to play one sink below or Fate Foreseen in his deck to not get blown out by what was the card called? The Ira weapon. The one that said
Zephyr Needle.
Zephyr Needle, that's the one.
Yeah.
You would have to, even though it was bad for the deck, because you want to just be as aggro as possible. It's like, okay, well, I play this for Dory and Ira. And Josh, I believe in his old Dorinthia list, would play Sigil for Sink Below. Why would Dory want to put Sigil in their deck? Sigil of Solace. Why would you want to put that in your all attack reaction deck, right? But it was like you just had to play it for Kano.
You had to
So
play it for Kano. You couldn't not play it for Kano. So
exactly. So you just have to adapt, and I tell people give Blitz another chance. It's really not that sacky anymore. Sure, there's going to be some sacky moments. A lot of people who complain about Blitz power level are Kasai players, which is like, just play a better deck. Um, I mean, I think Kasai is the most like fair deck in the game.
I can
So
agree to that. I can agree to that.
so just play a deck that's doing something unfair because I think in Blitz you have to be doing something a little unfair, right? Or to like Dorinthia where she strives is like in CC. If you can get the opponent below 10 life in CC with Dorinthia, you win the game. Getting there, that's the problem. In Blitz,
Getting
you're
there
already
is the
there.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah, in Blitz, you're already there, buddy. Two attacks in, and you're already there. And
Mm-hmm.
then death is on the horizon. So yeah, I'm gonna stop ranting and raving, and we can get into the other topic.
I have one more question for you. Maybe you'd be able to give me like a definitive top 4 to 5 decks for Blitz. Maybe to give people um a map on where to start testing for Blitz going into Worlds. Or hell,
Um,
even just wanting to do better at locals. Like what are the 4 decks or 5 decks that are the best for Blitz right now?
and I'm gonna say this with total. Um, it's also based on the pilot. I
Sure.
had a game against Nam at the skirmish I just played at where he was playing Oldham, and it was like the Oldham game where I had to Art of War mid shackle to draw a certain card, like a blue mid shackle to win the game.
He
And it was
did
down,
he did tell me that you played that game very well.
yeah,
So,
and I
yeah.
had to pitch stack perfectly. I was counting my deck. And I'm saying if you just pick up Chain for the first time, I think, or even, I think there's a lot of decks that are like this in Blitz where you pick it up for the first time, you're not going to know how to win that matchup in the pitch stacking mode. I feel like Kano's one of those decks where it's like Kano can be a, you know, tier S plus deck. I think it's contention. I definitely would put it on the top five. I'll give you my top five here in a second, but I feel like if you don't know how to pitch stack your combo correctly against Oldham or Bravo and know how to navigate that game, you will not be able to win. And there's
Yeah.
no point of bringing Kano to the Worlds if you don't know how to play that well. Um, so yeah, basically I would put Icelander right now tier one, best deck in the format. You gotta beat Icelander. I feel like she slows down the meta enough where it just kind of does its thing and a lot of decks can't play out of it, right? It has a OTK, it has a combo built into it, and it has a disruption plan for aggro, and it's
Yep.
very easy to see it. Um, Second, I would probably put. I'm just going off. 100% skill level or 90% skill level here, right, of the pilot. Um, I would probably say, like, I'm trying to think, like, I don't want to say Chain because bias, right? Um, but I'm just trying to think, what does Chain lose to other than Icelander? And like a very Kano's like that, but I feel like Kano has to. I'm gonna say Chain. I'm gonna put Chain over Kano there because Kano to beat the super aggro decks like Phi who have one linear game plan of go crazy on turn two. This is my only play. You have to see Aether Wildfire, and sometimes you just don't get the lucky hit, right? Um, Chain
Yep.
though, kind of just, I feel like your equipment sweep is crazy. I feel like the fact that you can block a card with your hand on turns 4 and 5, if it gets that far, or even 3, and pretty much know with how your deck's constructed that you're gonna mill a blood deck card, so you can plan for that. It's pretty good. In 3, I would probably put like Oldham or Bravo, one of the Guardians, because I feel like they are just super good at what they do, disrupting, fatiguing. They have two different game plans they can go with. If you're playing against Chain as Bravo, please just bring in Titan's Fist and Shield and try to fatigue me. Everyone tries to race me right now as Bravo because they don't have space in their list for the extra equipment. Move
Yeah.
some move some stuff around. That's all
Yeah.
I can tell you. Move some stuff around because it's just too easy when you come in turn one, I negate that, then I deal 20 damage back
Then
to
I
you.
just
Like
come right at you, like you're just on
exactly.
block mode for the next 10 turns. What it seems
Exactly.
like.
Yeah, and it's like you could have just like hammered, got rid of my carrying husk and make that your win condition, right? Just make my carrying husk your win condition.
Hmm.
Um 4, I would probably put like probably Kano there if it's being played at 100%. And then 5, I think it's probably a warrior. It's probably Dorinthia, right? I might even put Dorinthia over Kano. But I feel like these are 5 very solid decks that when you learn them to 100%, they will do well. I feel like Dorinthia, its version of it's kind of like Chain, where if you don't know how to play against the Guardians, you're gonna lose. Um, and I feel like Kano is the same way. If you don't know, basically Guardian makes it a lot very difficult in Blitz to for some for some decks. And I feel like that's kind of where the skill in Blitz comes in
Yeah,
is those
for
tough
sure.
matches.
I'm still learning it, but Josh has figured out a way to pitch stack into a combo against Oldham just to beat him, and I have yet to really do that. And
Yeah, some kind of crazy triple hit combo, right?
it's absolutely incredible. When I saw him do it one time, my jaw dropped. I was like, "What?" And I usually like don't even put a damage on Oldham. Actually, that was on Crown of Seas. Was a card, but um, I think you see more Guardians right now. At least this is what we've seen. We see quite a bit more Guardians because we don't have as much Kasai in the format either. And Kasai is just notoriously the Guardian killer, right? So I think your 5 are
Don't
pretty spot on.
don't play Kasai from Worlds, please. Don't do it. Unless there's some crazy thing in Uprising and she gets a new Draconic hero and
Dynasty.
yeah, sorry, Dynasty, and she gets a new Draconic hero and she's just so good, or she gets like another crazy card. Please don't do it to yourself. You're
Yeah,
gonna
you'll
be so
hate you'll hate your life.
you'll be so upset when our Rhinar high rolls you, meaning they drew one Blood Rush Bellow the whole game.
You'll be upset. You'll be
Oh my,
upset when you're 11-0 and you lose 5 straight,
yeah,
and you don't get the Guardian matchup, and you're gonna be like,
yeah, no.
"Wow, how'd I do that?"
Dude, I
So,
also love that in like Blitz when people go, "Oh, they high rolled me," and it's like, you mean Kano saw Aether Wildfire, the one
mhm.
card that they're trying to put in their deck?
Yeah,
Oh my God, Chain hit a Blood Debt on turn one. It's almost like he plays 20 Blood Debt cards in a 40 card deck.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Oh no. So dude, fuck Blitz. Let's talk about Pro Tour Lille. This is honestly the reason why we're here right now, because our teammates are in fucking Lille, France right now.
I mean,
You know,
aren't they about to play in 30 minutes? Isn't that when round one comes up?
no. That's
Or is
that's
it AM?
that's that's local 10:30 local time for them.
Um,
So I think that's like 4:30 our time, but also believe that that's when they start drafting and that's when they start doing their stuff. So who knows? They're asleep right now. I will say that, but I'm excited to watch this weekend. Um, I'm honestly for the guys. Um, I'm a lot more confident in their ability this go around than last Pro Tour. As weird as that sounds, because I at first I didn't really think they were putting a lot of effort into it. It's so from what it seemed, but then all of a sudden it just ramped up, and they were playing every single night for a while, and also getting our patrons involved. And
I I think that goes to
uh,
show that that extra 2 weeks that they gave, so you can grasp what the format's going to be and not just change it last minute, helped a lot there. And yeah, just going forward, give it 4 weeks, right? Give us 3.5, 4 weeks to play with before a Pro Tour Worlds, right?
for
Not
sure,
not 13 days or whatever it
yeah,
was last time. That
it
was
was
awful.
yeah, it was like 12, 13 days. I wanted to put my head through a wall. Um, yeah, I'm. This format seems neat, right? I think this might be the coolest, healthiest CC format we've seen in quite a while. Um, as crazy as that sounds, I think players are going to be rewarded for playing what they're comfortable of playing. I
A
don't
hundred
think
percent.
I
A
don't
hundred
think
percent.
for the most part, I don't think there's a meta call for this tournament, which is neat, which is refreshing. Shout out to Kel McCreath. He's going to play Bravo. That's just because he's comfortable with it. He's going to do well. I hope he does at least.
I
Um,
mean, doesn't the man have like 4 PIs?
I
He's
mean,
insane.
he
He's
he
insane.
he is Bravo showstopper. So shout out to Kel. That's my dude. But I feel like no matter like if you just play something you're comfortable with, then I think you're going to be okay. You still might not top eight, but you
Yeah,
still might get your
exactly.
PTI. And doing well at this is all you want to do. So even if you are playing Prism, right? I do think there is a place for Prism to do very well at this tournament. Just with seeing how and like I said, it's like 90% playing what you're comfortable with, but it kind of is 10% like meta call ish. And I think Prism it might be a good time right now for Prism. Just how the way Singapore ended up, we're probably looking at slightly a bit more Guardian. Just the fact that there's so many like aggro type decks. Like there was a lot of Viscerai apparently, a lot of Phi, and a lot of Briar in the tournament. So if you're looking based on that, we're probably seeing a lot more Guardian as far as people wanting to make that meta call. So you're gonna have your Justin Salmons, your Alex Sneeds, and Dalen Mack. You're gonna see all these people that are like, okay, well, I'm just gonna stick with Prism, right? More than likely, that's what all three of those guys are playing, probably. And they might see a little bit more success because more people think, oh, Oldham and Bravo are gonna be good against these super aggro decks, and then the Prisms are just going to prey on these people just playing these Guardian decks, and they're just going to do infinitely better than what they originally would have. So
I
who
mean, the
knows?
question is, do you want to play the deck that beats the best decks, like the aggro decks that targets them, or do you want to play the deck that targets the deck that beats the aggro decks, right? And depending on what the majority of players bring, you're gonna win one of those, right? If you're playing Oldham and all you see is Phi and Briar and Viscerai, and you are very versed in that matchup and you think you have a very good list to beat it, you're gonna do well.
Gonna have a good
But
time. Yeah,
if you see three prisms, GG to your run, my guy. You know,
Shout out
like
Nick Butcher, you bitch. So I agree. It's kind of like a triangle like meta game, right? Like you're trying to mind fuck each other, and you know, some it's there's the thing about it is there's never a right answer, and there's also never a wrong answer, especially in something like this. Like I was just saying, like just play what you're comfortable with, and then like just yeah, that's it. You know,
I
just
think it's gonna be harder navigating the uprising draft
yeah, I agree.
than
Force
the
Phi, there you
CC.
go.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it works for some people, you know.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. You're gonna need to know how to draft a little bit, and a lot of people have been talking about forcing Phi. And as crazy as it sounds, um, I feel like I feel like forcing Phi is the answer, and also forcing Phi is not the answer. Same thing with the CC stuff, because you might have 4 people try to force Phi, and or excuse me, you're probably going to have 2 people force Phi and 2 people play their seat into Phi, right? And then you're going to have the 2 Dromai and the 2 Icelander and fighting for everything. So you more or less what record do you want to come out as? Like if it's the end all be all, you want to at least go 2-1 in a draft, right?
You always want to go 2-1. That's
Yeah.
a goal.
And I like in my brain, I'm computing that a very mediocre Phi deck can go 2-1 in a draft pod more times than not.
Yep.
So,
I mean, I watched a video. Matt Rogers said it best today that
mm-hmm.
Phi can play a yellow deck and do well and have a good deck, but both of the other heroes either are locked into one of the other colors. Like Icelander, if you don't get enough blues, that yellow ain't doing shit for you.
Yeah.
With Dromai, if you don't get enough reds, that yellows or that blue is not doing shit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just, but with Phi, it's like if I get a yellow anything, it's like, okay, I have this 2 attack yellow card, or I can just pitch it into my weapon and it hits for 3 with go again.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good.
I feel like the other 2 decks kind of have like more bricks, right? Like you said, like I guess like with the Matt Rogers philosophy there, you know, you have yellow cards that pitch into your weapon, or they can attack and go wider into your chain links. Whereas Icelander has some cards that you just don't want to see, right? Like
Literally, I think like 90% of the Icelander pool, well, maybe like 70% or 80% of the Icelander pool in the set's like Dookie. Like, it's just so fucking bad.
yeah, I totally agree with that. But you can't, obviously you can get lucky, and if your philosophy is I'm just gonna go and force Icelander, and then you get lucky enough to be in the pod where there's 4 Phis, you might actually go 3-0 in that draft. As crazy as it sounds.
But the thing is, if there's 2 Icelander and like what, 2 Dromai and then 4 Phi, you're still not even set up to win that draft.
Yeah,
It's crazy
honestly, yeah.
You're still not set up to win that draft. Like, there's one philosophy that we can just say it because like Pro Tour's happening, that Alan, he said he was doing. He's like, hey, I'm drafting one of the Draconic heroes, whichever one my partner to my right is not on. If they're on Phi, I'm going to draft Dromai. If they're on Dromai, I'm going to draft Phi. I don't care how many Icelanders are in the pod. I'm not playing Icelander. And he's done pretty well for himself. He got top 4 at a calling.
I want to say he went 3-0 and then 2-1 in the other draft, if I'm not mistaken. So he went 5-1 in the.
And he won a Road to Nationals, right?
And he won a draft RTN, yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, that might just be the actual strategy. Cut that out, Kyle. Cut that out, actually.
We can't be telling anybody the secrets, right? Talk about predictions. What do you think top 8's going to look like? Just like we did for the Pro Tour New Jersey, let's talk about what we think the decks will be, and then area representation for players. Because we were fucking way off in the last one. There were 4 Europeans in top 8.
Yeah, I ate my words. Goddamn.
I ate my. Gee, I was full after my words.
Yeah, no, for it. Wasn't there like six?
I want to say there was two American players,
Yeah.
four European players, and a Canadian player, and something like that.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it was yeah.
It was Spain and Poland finals.
Yeah,
That's
that
all
yeah,
I know. Yeah,
it was. I remember
and
that.
then
Yep.
the guy from Poland also won the calling too. So I mean, they just were
They
they
were
said
on one that weekend.
they were on one on their Star of the Show deck.
Yep. Love to see it. Love to see it. Talk
Okay,
to me.
so
What do you think?
predictions, right? All right, so we're gonna have one Prism, one Icelander. If they play each other, Prism wins.
Oof.
Right?
Easy top four to the prison player.
Easy top four for the Prism player. All right, all right. So yeah, yeah, one Prism, one Icelander. I think we're gonna see either one Bravo or one Oldham,
Okay.
right? One Guardian,
One guardian. Okay.
maybe one other control deck, maybe either all one of those three gets another one, right? One of those four options gets another one. But I definitely think we're gonna see five or six aggro. And I think it's kind of just like aggro to me, right? So basically how I would split up is like three control, five aggro. That's it's kind of like it can be changed out there, right? What the decks are. It's like I feel like all the decks are playing pretty similarly to each other. I feel like Briar, Viserai, Phi, they're just kind of like all doing the same idea, just a different way. Briar has the channel mount combo. So against decks like Oldham, it plays better into because it's like, hey, I'm eventually gonna see channel mount heroic, and I'm eventually gonna present 21 to 28 damage. So that's a guarantee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're gonna see three of those. And then you have Viserai, who's like, I'm just gonna consistently, if you're not gonna disrupt me that much, put out 15 damage a turn. 10 to 15 damage a turn with on hit effects. And then you have Phi, who's like, depending on how you build him, the most consistent, you know, 14 damage a turn, or he's like this weird on hit effect deck that you can build into. Um, so I just think it's just gonna be either, four aggro, four control, or like five aggro, three control, something like that. And I think if I had to put a number, I'd probably say like similar to Singapore, where it's like three Briar, two Briar, maybe one Viserai, maybe one Phi, give or take one of either of those decks. But I think
Yeah.
Briar is definitely the best aggro deck going into this. Shout out Nathan when he wins
Oh.
the whole
Okay.
thing.
Wow. You and I kind of have the same prediction on that. Um, Aerial wise, what do you think? How many people from Europe are topping? How many people coming over from America top eight? What's up with that?
Maybe we'll have revenge. Maybe this is the time where we say, "Hey, you did it to us. Now we're gonna do it to you and kick you all out of top eight." I have no clue. I feel like all the players and all the regions are good, and I feel like they're all to their like. I feel like there's so many good players playing out their to their best expression of how they can play, and they're being perfect with their plays and everything. It's just so hard to know who's gonna do well, especially when you have draft in it. It kind of does make it harder too, because it's like in this format, you just don't have to have a good CC strategy and then predict the meta right, and then have your meta, your CC strategy work. You also have to be very good at limited and make sure that you can either 2-1 both of your pods and then do pretty much perfect in CC, or if you have to 3-0 your pods to give yourself some buffer room in CC, or if you go 1-2 and 1 your pods, you have to go undefeated in CC. So, it's kind of hard to tell, to be honest with you. I would
Mm-hmm.
probably say something like not similar. I would probably say four European players, probably similar, like four Europeans.
Europe's honestly fucking huge if we want to think
Yeah,
about it though. So like
that
it
too.
makes sense.
It does.
right?
It does. And a lot of those players are really good and they're just like low key about it, right? That's the crazy thing. That
Yeah.
they're super low key about it. So yeah, 3 or 4 Europeans, 2 or 3 Americans, and then wait, actually, I would say top 8, 3 European, 1 to 2 American, 1 to 2, some kind of Singapore, Hong Kong, some kind of Asian area, right? I feel like they're gonna do well, and then something, maybe give it to Canada or something weird like that.
So no New Zealand, no
Oh, all right,
Australia.
yeah, that's what I meant. Give it something weird to like Canada or New Zealand or Australia.
Sure. Okay. Um, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you as far as the top 8 decks go. I do believe there's going to be like 2 Briar, a Viserai, probably see a Prism, and I think it'll be Oldham instead of Bravo. We might actually see a Dash make it in the top 8 again. So, if it is just as good as it possibly could be, so
Hey,
you know,
everyone, block that dash deck. That's how you win.
yeah,
I don't know
just
if you know
block the
this.
fucking courier. What are y'all smoking over there? Sorry. So, um, as far as the nationalities go, bold prediction. I think 3 Americans, 3 European players, and then we're gonna have 1 New Zealand or Australian player, and then probably a player from probably Singapore, or do we claim Canada as, yeah, if it's North America? Yeah. So North America, I guess, because you have players like Isaac Crute that's gonna be there and they play very well. So they're in on that North American too. So what deck do you think wins then? What's your deck that you're taking? You said it was gonna be Briar, right?
Briar. I think Briar, does it have a bad matchup? Question mark.
I can. I think it has tough matchups for sure.
I, but
Obviously, like Oldham,
but
for
tough.
example, is tough.
Here's the thing, right? I don't consider a tough matchup a bad matchup. Because let's be honest here, if you're playing at the Pro Tour, you know how to play it. Like, for example, Oldham, the reason why that deck always has a struggle winning and struggle topping is because if you see Prism, there is no way how you can play really to make that matchup better or player skill or something or
Sure.
put a. But it's like, against when you're playing Briar against Viserai, you can win. Against Oldham, you have channel mounts. Even if they offer disruption, there is a way for you to pitch stack your deck to win at the end of the game with Evergreen and outvalue them at the end of the game. And I've seen Nathan fatigue people with Briar. It's insane. But I think I like decks like that. I think Starvo and Chain were like that in the last meta, where it's like they had tough matches, but they didn't really have a bad match, right? They didn't have a bad matchup. That's why I always love playing Chain, because it's like, yeah, Oldham made me scratch my head and go, dang, I'm gonna really have to tackle this deck and really learn how to play against this deck and how to beat it and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
once I started beating Oldham, it was literally like easy. It was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing to beat Oldham. Nom hated me for a long time, man. Do you remember that?
I do. I do remember that because you figured it out.
Yeah, because I figured it out.
Yeah. I think just like you, I'm gonna predict. I'm gonna predict a Nathan on Briar World's Champion, or excuse me, Pro Tour Champion. Do you know how fucking hype that'll be if Nathan, or hell, if anybody from the group ends up winning the tournament?
I mean, I'd just be so proud if they even top 64, top 32. I'm gonna be so happy for them. So no matter what, I feel like I'll be happy for my team, of course. But honestly, if someone you have to put in effort to this. If you make the top 8 or top 32 or top 64, you're listening to this for some reason, congratulations when you look back and, watch this podcast because it's so good and all that. But yeah, I think, and if you get that far, you deserve it. And it's definitely an achievement that you should be proud of. And I hope to one day be in that position when I, top 8 nationals or top 8 worlds. Gotta put that energy out there. Sorry, gotta plug myself in there.
Shove that energy right up the hoo-ha. I love
Exactly.
it. Yeah, I do think one thing that is meta going into Pro Tour and going into Worlds and going into your nationals, so just brush your fucking teeth, wash your pits, and when you take a shit, be sure to wipe your ass clean, wash your hands, because we don't want your filth, shout out to the not sponsor of the podcast. We're not going to name them, but wink, wink. I'm in your emails. It's been a while. It's honestly been a while since we've actually been able to have a conversation, and we're going on hour 10 now, and I'm looking forward to this weekend.
God, you are so nice, man.
I'll shake your hand next time.
You have the biggest male appendage out there. I just want to let everyone know.
Let it hang like a moose, all right?
Exactly.
God almighty. But, we'll probably record something right after ban list announcement on the 30th.
We're going to be talking about Pro Tour, of course, right?
Definitely. We're going to decompress the Pro Tour nonsense that ensues this weekend. I want to watch all of it. I'm going to try to watch all of it. Nobody's probably listening to this part. If you are, I love you. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Ryan. You know who you are. But yeah, hopefully, I'm going to ask you on the podcast right now for all of our listeners, all 7 million of them, I think you and I should have a watch party on Saturday morning for day 2 of the Pro Tour if you're down.
I am down.
Try to get some patrons in there and shoot the shit, have a good time, watch the stream, and just analyze some good flesh and blood, because it's going to be some damn good flesh and blood this weekend. So
it will be.
I'm excited. So excited.
Saturday morning, is that day 2 playing out, or is that top
8? Yeah, Saturday morning will be day 2. Sunday morning will be top 8.
Okay, sounds good.
But yeah, any final words, closing thoughts before we quit recording so I can upload this thing?
Do ma.
And Amide.
Yep. Happy to be back.
It feels good to actually be able to have this conversation, and we're gonna start killing it for the last part of the year and going into 2023. Jesus, that sounds crazy to think about. But if you stayed this long, we appreciate you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're on Spotify as well, so if you want to listen on there, there's a link in the description of a YouTube video. If you want to check us out, if you found us on Spotify, or you see us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at missing triggers. We're gonna start putting a lot more content on Twitter as well, and having a lot more neat conversational pieces. So we appreciate you guys listening, and until next time, guys, brush your fucking teeth, wash your hands, wash your pits, wipe your ass, and shout out Alexander. Have a good one.